Tonight on Joy News Prime, large parts of the country without electricity for several hours following a trip in the transmission line, which has affected thermal power generation. We'll bring you details shortly and what is being done to rectify it. Student Loan Trust Fund vows to continue with the publication of beneficiaries who have defaulted and warns it will soon begin prosecution of some defaulters. Sacramento police arrest 5 members of a church who attacked officials of the Tama West Municipal Assembly.
Mosques are under the state expected to act responsibly and desist from disobedience, violence, and vigilantism.
In business,
Securities and Exchange Commission set December 18 as deadline for validation of customers of affected fund management companies.
I'm Azure, and Joy News Prime comes to you live from the Joy News Studio here in Accra with digital address GA0992539. Stay tuned in. In our first story, large parts of the country are without electricity as we speak, following a trip in the power system which has made the thermal generation thermal plants unavailable. We're joined on the line now by the chief executive of the Ghana Grid Company, who's going to be giving us some details and to explain exactly the situation we're faced with. Thank you very much for speaking with us, Engineer Amakuba. So what exactly is the situation we're dealing with now?
Right. At exactly 2:37 this afternoon, there was a major system disturbance following power swings from Côte d'Ivoire, which led to the stripping of all thermal plants in service in Ghana. This happened when we were exporting about 100 megawatts from the Ghana system into the Côte d'Ivoire system. All of a sudden, Côte d'Ivoire lost their line to Mali, which means that there was overgeneration in Côte d'Ivoire, and they started exporting power to us. So what it means is that there was reverse power from Côte d'Ivoire into our system to the tune of about 100 megawatts. This made it that the Ghana system also had overgeneration because of the 100 megawatts that was being imported from Côte d'Ivoire, which raised the frequency of the system. And as you know, the thermal plants in Ghana are very sensitive to frequency fluctuations, and this led to the shutting down of all the thermal plants in Ghana, which caused the outage that we are seeing. But as we speak currently, we are trying very hard to restore the thermal plants that had the outage.
No, you say that there was a trip in the system which meant that Côte d'Ivoire reversed the power. Now, this trip you're talking of, could it not have been anticipated?
No, I mean, this is something that you cannot see with your eyes, you know, and you don't know when such a thing would happen.
You mean without warning from Ivory Coast? Ivory Coast couldn't have warned us?
This happens without warning. All of a sudden, you see that there's other reversal. And if you see such phenomenon, what happens is that we have instruments which we call relays that have been set to deal with the situation. So when the relays see such situations, they strip the machines in order not to harm them.
All right. You say that the thermal plants have been affected, but how about our hydro plants, Akosombo and
the hydro plants, as we see, are in operation. So it is not every part of the country that had the outage.
Which parts of the country have? Which parts of the country?
Didn't see the outage. The people in what is it called? In Accra didn't see the outage. I believe that some parts of Accra didn't see the outage, but the outage has affected the central region, western region, Ashanti region. Immediately after the Ashanti region, then it means that all the way to the north, we didn't have power.
Now, that's quite extensive. How soon can we expect power to be restored?
We started immediately to restore power. As we speak now, I know that Kumasi has received power. Kumasi has been restored, which means that from Kumasi, we are trying to restore Techiman and Tamale, then Bolgatanga in that step, and then also Sinani. Parts of Accra, which went off also, had come back. As we speak, Tama went off, but Tama came back immediately when the situation occurred.
And so you're saying, are you able to estimate how much longer it's going to take for everybody else to be on stream?
I believe that by, as we speak now, it's about 7 o'clock. And it takes time to do that. So in an hour's time, all the areas that are in darkness would have been restored back.
All right, thank you very much. Engineer Amakoba is the Chief Executive of the Ghana Grid Company and was giving us an update on the power situation. He confirms that large parts of the country have been without electricity, and he explains it's as a result of a trip on the line which affected thermal generation. So they're trying to bring the thermal plants back on stream, and they're working on it. Within an hour, every part of the country which is in darkness as we speak should have power. We will be monitoring the situation and we'll give you an update as to when we have it. But moving on, if you encountered hundreds of police officers marching through the streets of the capital on Tuesday and wondered what was happening, it was the Ghana Police Service on a route march to assure the public its men have put in place measures to ensure you can go about your Yuletide in peace. Also on display, as the officers marched, were their accoutrements. The IGP James Oponboenu, at the end of the march, launched their Father Christmas operation. He says we'll see security beefed up at specific places such as the malls, churches, entertainment centers, and markets.
Protection of lives and property is a fundamental responsibility of the police, and we are going to leave no stone unturned to ensure that this core responsibility is achieved in totality during the festive season. The Ghana Police Service is resolved to deal ruthlessly with all criminal elements and their unwanted activities. Let me sound a note of warning to anyone or group of persons who intend to use the Christmas and New Year festivities to perpetrate any form of criminal activity, to know that the police service, together with other sister security organizations, will deal decisively with them. We are increasing deployment of personnel and intensifying security, not only at the densely populated areas like the shopping malls, recreational entertainment centers, beaches, churches, streets, and market centers, but also in the new settlements. We will also deploy uniform and plainclothes officers on mobile and foot patrols within the communities to prevent residential crimes.
Elsewhere, 5 members of the Anointed Palace Church have been arrested by the Sakumono police over an attack on officials of the Tama West Municipal Assembly on Monday. The Municipal Chief Executive, Azure, works engineer, and the finance officer in the company of other task force members were attacked by youth of the Community 18 branch of the church led by the founder, Reverend Obofo. The church is said to have failed to provide permits and documentation covering some ongoing projects there. The local government service says such attacks on MMDA staff are barbaric and must be condemned. Head of the service, Engineer Nana Atu Arthur, to news briefing in Tama, sent a strong warning to churches and other religious groups who continue to attack MMDA staff in the line of duty. There's more in this report.
Tama West Municipal Assembly, the Chief Executive and her officers were here to inspect his building permits. And the boys at the church beat them up so much that they couldn't resist.
An eyewitness account of Monday morning's violent confrontation between officials of the Tama West Municipal Assembly and some youth of Reverend Obofo's Anointed Palace Church in Tama. The task force led by the Tama West Municipal Assembly Chief Executive, Adwa Amwako, were confronted by club-wielding men from the church.
The engineer was beaten, his phone was smashed, the guys were beaten, the assembly vehicle, the mirror was smashed, the vehicle side was damaged badly, and it's all happening at APC.
The finance officer and other staff of the assembly were not spared. Operational vehicles and other equipment were also smashed in the altercation, while the task force members sustained injuries. Head of local government service has condemned the attacks.
What happened yesterday is unlawful, and that we condemn it in no uncertain terms. That no individual has a right to attack any staff of the municipal, metro, and national assemblies throughout this nation, Ghana.
He's been explaining what triggered the confrontations.
The head of us had previously issued 4 summons to the church, but the leadership of the church never showed up. So the head of work served them with summons to report in the office of the following day with their documents. Just when they moved to carry on, some youth of the church rushed on them, took their red paint, poured on them, closed their main entrance gate, and started beating them with sticks, metal strips.
Nana Ato-Atta, however, sent a strong warning to churches and other religious bodies who have the penchant of attacking MMDA staff.
We would like to inform Ghanaians that churches, mosques are under the state, but not the vice versa. In this regard, they are expected to act responsibly and desist from disobedience, violence, and vigilantism.
5 persons, meanwhile, are in the grips of the Sakumano police for their involvement in Monday's fracas.
I want to implore on the Ghana Police Service that those found culpable need to be brought to the books so that it will serve a deterrent to others.
Government has assured that perennial flooding experience in some parts of the capital will be a thing of the past from next year. It cites a $200 million loan facility approved by Parliament for the Greater Accra Resilient and Integrated Development to comprehensively tackle the problem. The persistent floods over the years, especially in the major cities including Accra, have also been blamed on the activities of some Ghanaians. But the Sector Minister Samuel Atachia says government is ready to commit about 42 million Ghana cedis on sensitization, adding the execution of the project will reduce flood occurrence risk to at least once every 10 years, irrespective of the amount of rainfall. He spoke with Kwesi Parker Wilson.
It has been ascertained, scientifically proven, the kind of infrastructure they want to build. For 10 good years, you could say that it can go to bed.
Without any floods in Accra?
Yes, without floods in Accra. Talking about the Odor Basin and the environs and all the spillovers that we see. Because they are going to do what we call permanent fix to what has been a more keen and challenging problem since Nkrumah's days. What you see is a comprehensive, fix of this problem. So they've weighed all the factors we are discussing now. If people should be dislodged, where do you put them? It's also part of the loan. If people should move from where they are to better places, what is the cost implication? So these are all matters that will be absorbed by the loan, and I think they'll be better off than we think, because if you look at some of the interventions here, about 161 people and businesses will benefit from the structural flood mitigation measures. It's a huge situation. About 500,000 people from low-income communities will benefit from solid waste collection improvements, final disposal capacity improvements through the creation of landfills. So it is not a small matter. Some 73 people will benefit from the improved infrastructure. So we should just embrace this as the good fortune of President Akufo-Addo, because Nkrumah couldn't do this.
And for you as a sector minister, how do you feel about this? Because you've been accused of doing little to mitigate the floods in the country. In fact, especially here in Accra. About 2 weeks ago, we witnessed some heavy floods in Accra, the central region, and some part of the northern part of the country. And you've been accused of doing little about it.
It's not a minister doing little about it. It's a nation that would want to spend on where it matters, especially in an area that will not generate you immediate income. It's not like going to the bond market and say that we want 3 billion for cocoa. When we're talking about drainage, it doesn't yield immediate dividends. That's why people pay less attention to that.
We're talking about human lives. They are human beings.
That is why we should
they do the production for the country to generate the revenue.
That is why we should say that although drainage is not going to give you the immediate benefit, the consequence of mismanagement of our drainage system will have a toll on lives, livelihood, and properties. So that is why we should pay due regard to that. But you could see that it's only Akufo-Addo who is showing a difference this is the first time we can receive about 200 million Ghana cedis to tackle this Selton and concrete lining projects. It's never happened in the history of our country. You can track the revenue levels that come to the ministry. It's like that. So when it matters most, as we've really underlined, and we pay less attention to it, the political will is not that let's spend in the areas where destruction could be imminent, then we're doing the nation a disservice.
Watching Joy News Prime, we're taking a break, but still ahead. Students Loan Trust Fund vows to continue with the publication of beneficiaries who have defaulted and warns it will also begin prosecution of same. Stay tuned in. We'll be back in a bit. There's been a sharp increase in the number of student loan beneficiaries flocking to the offices of the Student Loan Trust Fund to clear their indebtedness. The fund is attributing to recent publications of defaulters, which has caused some controversy. The fund, however, says it will not relent and will even take it a step further to begin prosecution of defaulters. The fund has been interacting with Maxwell Agbagba, who is more in this report.
Student Loan Trust Fund estimates that about 20,000 people who benefited from the loan during the days in various tertiary institutions are still owing the fund. This year it has become very difficult for the fund to provide to other students who are equally in need. But authorities here are telling us that after the publication of names in the center spread of some newspapers and then also on its websites, they have seen a significant recovery rate here at the Student Loan Trust Fund as many defaulters are trooping in to settle their debts. I've been speaking to Public Relations Officer of the SLTF, George Lane, and he has been explaining to me how this happened.
So we did a first publication last week. I think it was last week Thursday. We did one this morning. I can tell you that apart from those whose names were actually published, there are a lot more people out there who know they owe us, who have made no attempt to pay, and they are suddenly coming out of the woodwork because they want to prevent the same thing from happening to them. Our phone lines have been deluged. We're getting call after call.
Public Relations Officer of the SLTF, George Lane, says it will go all lengths to retrieve monies owed the SLTF. He says it becomes necessary to prosecute defaulters. The SLTF will definitely do so.
We're going to publish more names, and then we're going to take the ultimate step of also prosecuting. Because, I mean, the reality is that this is a fund that has been set up to help build the manpower capacity of this country. I mean, we all know the value of tertiary education to our socio-economic development. We're going to go all the way. We're going to prosecute those that do not do what we expect of them. Over the past few days, since the first publication came out, people are coming and they are clearing the debts. So there are a lot of them out there that are employed. Granted, some may be unemployed, but our doors are open. Our phone lines are there. If you have a genuine reason why you're not servicing your loan, come forward and we'll talk.
I've also been speaking to Rejoice Gatwa. She is with the Client Service and Repayment section here at the SLTF. She has been talking about how they have been receiving many calls here after the publication of names of some defaulters.
Previously, we didn't get so much calls from borrowers, and the guarantors are so reluctant, mounting pressure on the borrowers to make payments. But after the publication, we get so many calls from borrowers requesting on the mode of repayment. We get so many calls after the publication, and we've seen improvements in the repayment of the loan. Before the publication, we don't get so many calls. Okay. Even the calls that we get is from new applicants who wants to register for the loan. But after the publication, we get more calls from defaulters and those that are due for repayment.
I've also been speaking to a beneficiary of the Student Loan Trust Fund. He has some concerns.
But I'm sure that the number that still, the number of people who are still defaulting, it is partly because of the difficulty with which we have to be able to pay. So, for example, personally, right after school, when things, I have not stayed home. I have worked since day one. And I have gone to University of Ghana campus because that's where I sourced the loan from. And then they told me that even though I have money to pay, I can't pay. And then they showed me somewhere else.
Former Joy News investigative journalist Manasseh Azure has written a book on the presidency of the former President John Mahama. That book is to be launched tomorrow. And in the book, you'd find very interesting reading and details of the John Mahama presidency. Manasseh Azure has joined me in the studio and he's going to be telling us exactly what is in the book and what the readers are to expect. Thank you very much, Manasseh. So, interesting work. I've seen portions, I've read portions of it, but I don't know the full content of it. How did you come by, or why did you decide to write a book on the presidency of John Mahama?
Well, I've always believed that journalists have more information than we put out there, and we are the best people to tell the stories of politicians and the politics of this country because we cover them, we interact with them, and so I see no reason why we don't have such works. I have taken inspiration from journalists in the United States, and if you look at Donald Trump, in his first 2 years, there were 18 different books about his presidency. In Ghana, we don't write anything. Our presidents don't write their memoirs. So we are denied the benefit of what really happened and the lessons that we can learn from it. Right. So I decided to at least start with the regime that I was very familiar with.
How did you go about it?
One, I started with information that I already had. Then
speculations, rumors.
Rumors. Then I started approaching people within the government, and sometimes they shocked me about the openness. There are certain facts that you hear or rumors you hear and you feel it will be difficult to get somebody to corroborate it. You go, this is what I'm doing, and the person opens up and tells you even more than you ever imagined you could get.
What was one of those things that you were told that you thought was so revealing, which has found its way into the book, I believe?
The making of President Mahama. As far back as 2005, there was a caucus that was grooming then MP for Bonabamboy. And the intention was that he could even be made to contest President Mills in the 2008, for the 2008 election. That's the NDC flag bearership. And the processes, it took the meetings and those who were behind, and the reasons John Mahama was chosen to lead the Northern Caucus are very revealing. And there was also something I learned about why the central region swings and then either NDC or MPP wins or loses an election.
All right.
And the information I had was that it isn't about the region, but it's about the behaviors of fanties. And it's very interesting.
All right, there was also this bit about the book where you said that former President John Mahama was almost going to resign before he became president.
Yes, when he was the vice president.
Yes.
There's often rumors. We hear rumors that vice presidents are sidelined. The late Mr. Arthur, we heard such rumors. So that was actually where I wanted to find out what really happens at the seat of the vice president. Why are they so much in pain when it comes to being involved? Then I realized that no, it wasn't only Mr. Arthur, but President Mills gave Vice President Mahama a lot of room to operate. But that did not stop those around President Mills from frustrating him to the extent that one afternoon he wrote his resignation, gave it to somebody to type, and it took the intervention of the chief director of his office, who came across that information quickly, I think the first person he went to was then Secretary to Cabinet, Beba Kumensa, and the whole presidency was alarmed, and they had to prevail on him not to proceed.
Have you spoken with the former president about the work that you've done, on him?
Yes, I have.
What's been his reaction?
Well, his reaction for me is very praiseworthy. What he told me was that, look, I am a writer myself, and even if what you are doing does not favor my political ambition and others, I wouldn't put any impediments in your way. I encourage such works, and if for nothing at all, they open up a discussion and it will help to build our democracy.
Did you object to any parts of the book?
There were issues he explained, and let me also say he never made any attempt to suggest that take this out or include this. No, he said, okay, this is what you have, but this is what I also have on ABC. So we had a very fruitful conversation. And
okay, Manasseh, this book is being launched tomorrow.
Yes.
When can it be available for people to buy?
After the launch, it will be available. The launch will be in Christ the King Hall, and after that we'll do another launch in Kumasi on Thursday. Friday will be in Tamale. Saturday will be in Bolga, and also Wa on Sunday for a book signing and reading event.
All right, thank you very much, Manasseh Azure Awuni. Manasseh Azure Awuni, as you know, he was a former Joy News journalist. He's now a freelancer, and you should be looking out for that book, The Fourth John, Rain, Rejection, and Rebound. Thank you very much for making time to be with us. We'll take it. The national security has justified its intervention in the dispute within the Ghana Water Company and software vendor SoftTribe, which is claiming its offices were raided. Officials of the company say their mobile phones were confiscated as the operatives demanded that they grant them access to service managing a system developed for the utility company. Technical Director of SoftTribe, David Bolting, has been speaking about the raid.
We had word that about 15 armed police and Ninchi raided our offices, and they presented what they said was a court order, which we noted was unsigned and unsealed, to confiscate all of our mobile phones and electronic equipment. So at that point, because of the, and they were actually quite heavy-handed in their attitude. So essentially, they confiscated all our phones. Then they initially they wanted to confiscate our laptops, but then they decided not to take the laptops. So currently, none of our technical staff or directors are with phones, so we cannot operate as a company. From there, they detained one of our technical staff and carried him to the Ghana Water head office. We actually run the e-billing systems for Ghana Water. So the billing systems that you receive your water bill by text, and the payments that you can make online and so on, and the customer apps and all of these innovations, we actually designed them and then implemented them. We started the project back in 2016.
2016?
Yes.
Okay, and you've been running it. Is this the same project that you have legal issues with?
It's the same project, yes. Yes.
Okay, so at that point, they come to the office, they ask for the passwords. Do you give them the passwords? Do they enter the service?
Well, at that point, our staff, obviously, they complied.
Okay.
So they gave them the details.
Right, so Joy News editor Fred Smith has been checking with the national security sources on what the raid is all about, and he joins us on phone. Fred, what did you find out?
Our sources within national security do not want to describe what happened yesterday as a raid. They said it was a search based on a court document. The court had issued a warrant for this search, and so they went based on that. This warrant I saw myself, it said that it is to secure something which was in the national interest, the data of water customers, which was part of utility companies under the national security installations. And so They went in following a request by Ghana Water Company that were having challenges with Soft Tribe, releasing that data for Ghana Water to prepare the bill for people or their customers who had used their system, their water, and so they can pay their bills. They didn't want a situation where people will pay too much or too little than they have used.
Now, Fred, the conversations that have been going on about this particular story suggest that there's this software vendor, Soft Tribe, which has a contract with Ghana Water Company to run its billing system. And there's an attempt, in fact, Ghana Water Company has indicated that it intends to truncate or abrogate this contract. But the company feels that it is being unfairly treated. What is the story you're getting from national security?
Well, the national security is not interested, from what I gathered, in the dispute between Ghana Water Company and its software the solutions provider. They are not interested at all. The reason why they went in to secure the data was simply because there was a national security issue. The Ghana Water Company could not process the billing for its customers, and this was because Soft Tribe was holding on to this as a result of the termination notice. Ghana Water had sent a notification to Soft Tribe that it was terminating the contract because they were failing to deliver as they should per the contract they had signed. And the other information I picked was that the staff of Soft Tribe had resigned, almost 100% turnout. And Ghana Water Company was not getting the best from those who were coming in because they did not understand what was going on. The last worker who resigned was sometime last year, 2018. And even for this person who resigned, there was an issue with that. Soft Tribe also requested that Ghana Water brings in the national security, alleging that this worker who was resigning had actually planted time bombs in the software. Time bombs simply mean that they had programmed it in computer terms so that if something in the system happens, for instance, if a date, for instance, appears in the system, maybe the date of 26th of November appears in the system, then an action should happen. And the program could be that maybe the system should shut down, maybe somebody's bill should be doubled, or somebody's bill should be reduced by half or something. So that was the allegation by Soft Tribe, and they suggested to Ghana Water to file this complaint at the National Security for redress. That same thing was done. And so when Ghana Water Company was having challenges this time with the software solution provider itself, it decided to go the same way by inviting national security to secure this. And in doing so, national security applied the law. They went to court and then got a court order to do so, which was showed to the staff of Soft Tribe when they visited. They claimed that they were fully armed when they were there. This has also been disputed by our sources within national security. They're saying that 4 plainclothes officers went to installation, the office of Soft Tribe, and asked them for this after showing them what the court had issued. Then they complied. They gave them access to their system. They were checking. In fact, it took some hours because the network, it needed very fast network, so it took some time. And then in the course of this, some staff, technical staff suspected that, well, these people who say they are just taking this and they suspect that something. They just went out and saw that there were police officers in the vehicle that came. And it's normal with all court cases, when the court issues an order, especially for demolitions, we have seen that those who are enforcing the order would have to go with security, mostly police. And so it is a similar fashion that this happened. The 4 officers who went into the facility did not wield any weapon and did not threaten anyone. The arrest of the staff of Soft Tribe, which we have heard from Soft Tribe, our sources say that is also not true.
All right. So essentially, national security is justifying whatever interventions they made as far as this dispute between Ghana Water Company and Soft Tribe is concerned?
Yes, indeed. In the national interest to ensure that Ghana Water Company continues to provide services to its customers across the country and be able to bill them for what they use.
All right. Thank you very much, Joy News editor Fred Smith, and he has been checking with our national security sources. And for those of you who are watching and wondering, why is the story of relevance to us? It is because if Ghana Water Company doesn't get the billing right, you may end up having anomalies with your bills, probably paying or probably being billed 10 times what you're supposed to pay. And you may also end up not getting your bills. And also, it is important that this matter is addressed adequately. You're watching Joy News Prime. The Upper West Regional Minister has expressed worry about inadequate critical staff, especially medical doctors in the region. The region has only 60 doctors expected to take care of over 800,000 residents. The Upper West Regional Minister, Dr. Bin Saleh, complained the doctor-to-patient ratio of 1 to 13,333 is highly unacceptable. Dr. Saleh made the statement when the Deputy Minister for Health, Alexander K. Aban, called on him at his office in Wa. Joy News regional correspondent Rafiq Salam reports.
Among the issues which are much of concern for the Upper West Regional Minister, Dr. Hafiz Bin Saleh, when he made the Deputy Minister for Health, Alexander K. Aban, was the inadequate critical medical staff to attend to the health needs of the over 800,000 residents in the region.
As of now, the population of doctors we have in the region is 60 medical officers, and that is not good enough for the region. The facility we currently christen the regional hospital has 2 doctors. 2. And that is the referral hospital for the region.
The new Upper West Regional Hospital, which was commissioned by President Akufo-Addo over 2 months ago and which is yet to be open to patients, did not escape mention by the regional minister.
They have indicated to me that before they start operations, they need seed capital. And I want to appeal to you so that that will be fast-tracked to get them seed capital. I have indicated and announced to the people of the Upper West region that all things being equal, in December, you'll start receiving patients in that facility. And I don't want to bow my head in shame. So I want to use this opportunity to appeal to you to ensure that they get the seed capital so that once they finish training of the health personnel that have been posted there in December, they'll start operations.
The Deputy Minister for Health, Alexander K. Aban, on his part, pledged to work with the sector minister to come out with incentives which will motivate and attract doctors and nurses to accept persons to rural areas in the country.
It affords us the opportunity for us to take very firm stance on distributing health workers equitably in the country, and probably to move the next step in making sure that those who accept postings in places that we allegedly call deprived areas are properly incentivized, so that at least that becomes the consideration for taking up these appointments.
Meanwhile, an induction ceremony was held at the Nasiri Bomi II Park for 5,332 nurse assistants, nurses and midwives in the northern belt of the country. Reporting for Joy News, Rafiq Salam. Wa.
The patients in my church. I promise to hold in confidence. I promise to hold in confidence.
Agbogloshi will have to face the law for storing food in what city authorities describe as toxic environment. This was discovered during a tour of the market by the AMA Sanitation Task Force under the Joy Clean Ghana campaign. Officials discovered that your favorite tolo beef, cowhide, known as wele, and many common food items were stored in a highly contaminated environment. PSA Nane Asafo was on ground.
Revelations, heartbreak, repentance, and a few rebels. Today's edition of Joy Clean Ghana campaign had it all. The inspection continued in the Agbogloshi market of Accra, which the authorities vowed to make a model of cleanliness. Our team discovered beef soaked in an unidentified substance, improperly stored cabbage, and cowhides, popularly known as wele, stored close to a urinal. But as we'll find out, this was just the tip of the iceberg.
Adulterated meat, and we have been here not once, not twice. We confiscated most of these things some time ago. So as we are here today to see whether they have stopped after we did the confiscation, meaning they haven't stopped. So we are going to confiscate all these things again in here. So you see.
So you can see. You can just see. You can imagine this. So this particular thing, so just have a look. So but it's hidden here. And at the end of the day, it finds itself into the market for sale. Okay, so already it's considered unwholesome. This is serious. Before, yeah, everything should go to the car. Everything should go. All these things are, I mean, take it all along. That we are struggling in the country to battle is, you can see. You see? So this is where they'll bring it.
I beg of Fuquano, I don't be asked or do so. My quack, how am I so? My mucus of fridge and see. But your back of mucus of fridge and
The public health inspectors closed down the wholesale facility. Many traders in Accra and beyond buy food from here to be sold to consumers across the country. Officials also proceeded into parts of the market, confiscating all goods being sold directly on the bare ground.
A day is coming, we will come here with a van. Anybody we arrest, we put the person in the van, and then we do straight law enforcement. We carry them straight from the field to the court for prosecutions. Today we have given abatement notice to 6 persons. And these 6 persons, we've asked them to carry out some kind of work that they are supposed to do. So when they are finished cleaning up the areas, they will come and inform us. We go there to do the inspection and see that wherever the food products were, and we see that the place is neat, then we allow them to go. But we gave them 3 days.
Not all learned their lessons though, as a gang of men attacked AMA vehicles and task force from claiming their unhygienic wares.
The task force were attacked, and some of the things that we confiscated were taken away. But we know the people. And when we leave here, we are going to lay a complaint and those people will be picked up. But in the near future and then the plans going forward, we are going to make sure that anytime that we are coming out, we have a permanent police officer or security officers that will be with us in order to come out to achieve the Clean Ghana campaign that we are doing now.
The team is not giving up in making Agbogloshi market a model of proper sanitation.
The whole of Greater Accra is our food market. This is where almost every trader that's trade in food products come to get their wholesale before they go to do the retail. You don't want a situation whereby you buy contaminated food, you go and eat, and the end of it all, you end up in the hospital. By the close of this year, I think we will see a different face of Agbogloshi. I can say that Clean Ghana campaign is really making a very, very positive impact.
You may not buy there, you may never have been there, but your favorite food vendor and or cafeteria chef probably does. Food contamination is a risk too big to ignore. All hands on deck. Let's keep Ghana clean. PSA Nanaya Safo's report for Joy Clean Ghana campaign.
We have an update on the power situation. We indicated, and in fact, our top story for this evening has to do with a power outage that has affected large parts of the country. Gridco says it has been working on it, and they have issued a statement that came through in the last few minutes. It says system disturbance And Ghana Grid Company Limited, GridCo, wishes to inform the public that at 2:37 p.m. there was a major system disturbance following power swings from the Côte d'Ivoire interconnection with Ghana, leading to outages in parts of the country. Power supply has been restored to most parts of the country, and efforts are currently underway to restore the remaining affected areas. GridCo apologizes for any inconvenience caused and remains committed to its mandate of delivering reliable power supply. And so the update we're getting from this is that GridCo is saying that power has been restored to most parts of the country. That's the very latest update we're getting, but we already know about the fact that this has to do with some power disturbances which has affected thermal power generation. Now, the Electricity Company of Ghana has also issued a statement, and it says the Electricity Company of Ghana wishes to inform its customers who are experiencing power outage this evening, that's November 26, 2019, that the outage is due to a technical challenge upstream. Customers should please note that the situation is beyond ECG's control. However, immediately the challenge is resolved, power supply will be restored to all affected areas. The inconvenience is very much regretted. And by the statement saying that it has to do with the technical challenges upstream, they're essentially saying that it's beyond them, it's happening with GridCo, except they didn't say that it was GridCo, but GridCo has already owned up to it. So that's the very latest we have. We hope power has been restored to your area, and you're watching me as we speak right now. Now, there is a new strategic investor to take over management of the Komenda sugar factory in the central region. The strategic investor is led by Lalit Mishra Kumawold of an Indian firm based in Ghana. The Trade and Industry Ministry presented the investor to the Mahene of Komenda before they took over the factory. It's been more than 3 years since the factory was shut down. Rachel Kojunyako has more.
It's a dream come true. At least during my tenure of office as the paramount chief of the traditional area. We have all fought for it. But I remain the #1 winner.
The Mahine of the Komenda traditional area, Nana Kojo Kru II, expressing how relieved he is when the Trade Ministry introduced the much talked about strategic investor for the Komenda sugar factory.
Sometimes I will do my best to avoid even the press, the media men. And you can see the sort of situation I went through, even trying to avoid your own people, because the questions that will be coming, sometimes embarrassing, sometimes you don't know.
There was a walk around the factory, a symbolic gesture to officially hand over the factory to the strategic investor, Park Agrotech Company Limited. The factory was shut down almost immediately after its commissioning 3.5 years ago by the previous administration. Ever since, the factory has been like a bride without a groom, being killed by loneliness. No sounds of metals to suggest the existence of life there. Weeds have taken over, cobwebs massaging the metals, while many of the parts have rusted. Acting Chief Director of the Ministry of Trade and Industry, Patrick Yaonimo, has been explaining what the occasion has been.
So the purpose is to bring him here, meet with the chiefs and people, and introduce him to them, and then come to the factory to look at its state. He's going to start working and bringing up the factory. So it's a very short visit.
PricewaterhouseCoopers transaction advisors have been explaining the processes that led to the selection and subsequent settling on this investor. Vish Ashagbo is a senior partner with the firm.
So we started off with a request for expressions of interest. There's about 15 expressions of interest that came in. By the time we actually requested formal bids, we got about 5. And then we went through a process of evaluating those 5 bids. There was a committee, an evaluation committee that was set up with representation from different stakeholder groups, including the Interim Management Committee of Komenda itself, the Ministry of Trade, and other government agencies. So that evaluation recommended Park Agrotech as the preferred bidder. But even before we got there, there was the need to do some due diligence, because we wanted to be sure that what was being presented to us by way of proposals on paper was actually supported by fax, so to speak. So a small team did go to India to conduct their due diligence with Park Agrotech and their technical partners. The technical partners are called STM Projects, who have significant experience in cultivation and processing of sugar. So the team that went to India went to see some of the work that they've done previously to satisfy themselves that they actually have the capability.
So what has the strategic investor got to say in all of this? Lalit Mishra is the managing director of the company.
All this factory, like any other factory, will keep on needing ongoing investment, ongoing retooling. And if that is done, definitely it will keep running and it will bounce back.
When are you starting work?
We are waiting for the final agreements to happen. After that, we'll start working.
Okay, so we are waiting.
For the bulletin. Thank you very much, Emma Peso,
Thank you very much,
joining us. So tomorrow you're bringing us
Tech Talk.
Tech Talk.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to Tech Talk on Wednesday. Thank you very much for watching, and you have a good night.